Welcome, welcome, welcome. What about me is our edition for tonight. What happens when your partner, your significant other, your spouse begins to awaken into a spiritual calling and you don't? I am Heather Lee Strom, the Galactic Canine Channel. Welcome to my show, Howling at the Moon with the Canine Guides, a riveting and provocative discussion about obscure things and dogs. Tonight, I want to open a discussion sort of from the shadows, so to speak, from the perspective of those who aren't experiencing any such awakening as their partners, nor do they wish to. Currently, there's significant discussion about those of us who are rapidly transforming spiritually, changing inside and out, and possibly affecting the relationships of those around them. Yet I don't see much of a discussion about these partners, friends, or family that may be feeling a little overwhelmed with all the big changes or a little bit left behind. I have invited my husband to join me here tonight to share with you what it has been like for both of us, and especially for him, as I have gone through a major spiritual transformation in the last year and a half. And for those of you who don't know me yet, I awakened pretty much overnight to my abilities to channel the galactic version of our dogs, something I never knew I could do. And I wrote a book about canine spirit guides. This event, this book, and this sudden spiritual shift has changed the focus of my life, the focus of my work, as well as my daily activities and my interests. And it has changed how my husband and I interact naturally. So I'd like to introduce you to my husband, Paul. I'm going to bring him on screen here. Hello, Paul.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today. And I'd like for you to introduce a little bit about yourself to the audience before we get started.
All right. I'm Paul Erlinghaus. Heather and I have been married for, 23 years now. I'm originally from Ohio, moved over here to Indiana to be with Heather a while back, and it's been a wild ride together over the years. I'm an engineer, and my passion outside of work is mountain biking and outdoor activities. So, like fixing things around the house, I'm kind of the handyman of the house, trying to fix everything I can. And so maybe that some of that engineering planning that I typically do maybe makes things a little challenging sometimes, dealing with some of Heather's quick turns and changes. So it'll be.
I throw him a curveball here and there.
Yeah, sometimes she gets me going one direction, and by the time I realize that we're going a different way. So, but we've. I'm excited to talk about some of those experiences and how we've dealt with changes over the years.
Yeah, I mean, we have kind of flexed these muscles repeatedly throughout our marriage because we've sort of rewritten our marriage a number of times because we've gone on a journey together that's been like this. We come to the middle and we meet, and then we go off and do our own thing, and then we come back and we do what we like to do together, and we could go away and do our own thing. And a lot of couples don't do that. They don't have their own separate interests, their own separate lives outside their coupling. So I think that makes it easier for us. I know other couples, though, have children, and sometimes those children create sort of like an offset focus outside of the marriage. You start focusing on your children and you don't focus on your marriage so much. So that can be a distraction from the marriage too. But but we have definitely seen our ups
Mhm.
and downs and our round and rounds. But this was definitely the biggest curveball we've
Mhm.
ever had, and neither one of us saw it coming. It's not like I knew it was coming. It's not like I warned him, okay, I think I'm going to do this now. It just sort of happened. So I think that was a bit alarming. What would you say, Paul?
It
Like you
definitely,
never.
yeah, it definitely caught me off guard.
Yeah, it caught us both off guard. Like I said, I didn't know it was coming. But I have 4 objectives I would like to achieve in our discussion today that I think would be helpful for other people. The first one is how it feels for the other person when one of you is going through a major upheaval, finding yourself and sometimes finding out that you're a completely different person than you thought you were, which is a good thing as you elevate your spirituality, you elevate your frequency, and suddenly you're operating on a completely different level than you were before. But the first thing I want to talk about is how that feels to the other person who's not doing any of the changing. And as you watch the spiritual person sort of come out of the cocoon and blossom, what does that feel like for you who's standing on the sidelines watching it all and not really able to participate? What input would you give on that topic? Can you
It's
share?
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, the change can happen so rapidly that it doesn't really give you a lot of time to ease into it, and so the excitement that Heather's had over her transformation. Um, I mean, she certainly is like, this is a major impact on her life. She's excited about it, wants to share it, um, and so it's a little hard to digest it all as quickly. It's like drinking out of a fire hose to try to even understand what it's all is going on. And then, obviously Heather is would love to share this with me more than maybe what I'm able to handle. And so has created some challenge. And so um, it's hard to, be true to yourself and what you're going through, where you're at, and yet at the same time share something that's really magical with someone else, your partner, and you want to share those things with them. So
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's frustrating on both sides because he doesn't know what to think about any of this. He doesn't, I mean, right? I mean, this is nothing you've ever dealt with. This is not an aspect of life that you've ever explored or been interested in, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's an area that I'm not really experienced in, so it's kind of learning from ground zero.
Yeah, so that's overwhelming. It's not something you picked up a book and said, "Let me just learn about this." It kind of was just thrown in your lap. It was thrown in my lap too, but it's easier for me because I'm excited about it. It's something that it's a change that I'm welcoming and I'm embracing. But when you're watching it from outside and it's not happening to you, I think that's probably, you respond differently to it.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have things that we're doing and plans, and I was kind of gearing up for a mountain bike race season, and all of a sudden all this comes out, and I'm still trying to focus on the race season. I think Heather probably didn't really like the mountain bike race was not important. Like it just, she was overwhelmed with excitement of what she was doing. And so it just takes a little while to shift gears and be able to figure out how to mesh our lives back together. So, there's just some time for that kind of adjustment of priorities and goals for each other. Things that were aligned before maybe changed a little bit.
Yeah, and that moves into my second objective for our topic tonight is ways to deal with these sudden changes. So we kind of sorted our way through this one too. We tried a number of different strategies. I think the first and most abundant strategy we used was sharing. I would want to share everything with you that I was going through and everything that I discovered about myself, about my healing process and what I had learned about myself and what I had just healed. And I would come running in from my recent meditation and want to tell Paul all about it. And Paul really didn't know what to say, didn't know what to think about what I was telling him. It was all like way outfield for him. So give me a little bit of insight on that, will you?
Yeah, it certainly was overwhelming, and I think it's just a matter of both of us like kind of accepting that we can share each other's what we're experience, and I'm open to what I want to hear what you're doing and and talk about it, and even if maybe I don't understand it, that just that openness of sharing that experience with you is valuable and important. Um, and so I mean we can share things even if the other person maybe doesn't quite understand what's being shared, but we got to have those conversations and keep talking about it.
Yeah, we've been pretty good about talking all the way through. I think one thing we tried too was we decided to have an evening a week that we spent together just talking and sharing, and we even tried meditating together. And you did spend some time learning to meditate. You want to talk about that?
Sure. I mean, meditation's always been hard for me. It's not something that really comes easily to me, so I would definitely over the winter tried and just I mean I don't feel like I had the magical experience that Heather would having, and that was kind of disappointing. And it's a little frustrating to see someone else having this magical experience, and I'm not. Um, summer's just hard for me, busy, with things going on. But I would like to return to meditating again this winter and see where I can take that. So, um,
Yeah. So I mean, you certainly gave it the 200% effort,
mhm.
to try and keep pace with me, maybe, so to speak. And then we just kind of realized that wasn't going to happen. I mean, I don't think anybody can keep pace with the speed I'm moving at, actually. So it's not realistic to expect you to, especially if you're not interested in that. So we just kind of let it go. Yeah, wouldn't you say? We just sort of just accepted it and said, okay, let's just do our own thing. So
I think a little bit
um,
there. Yeah. We
yeah.
obviously we had some hard conversations and times where maybe we were both frustrated with each other, but you have those conversations and sometimes you just need to give each other a little bit of space and then come back together, and we can each slowly move, give each other time to move. And I guess obviously you're moving very quickly, so giving me time to move a little bit. Um, and I think that we've been able to do that, and go back sometimes to your core things that you share together, your commonality, and just find joy in that, and use that as a grounding point, to continue to move forward together.
Yeah, and it seems like for me, the further I got into my process, the less I required to, the less I felt like I needed to bring you with me. Like I felt more confident in just standing in my own space. So sometimes I think we like to share and involve other people because we want someone with us in that experience. And it takes a hard look sometimes, or even maybe even more healing and more understanding for you to be able to stand in your own space and be okay that other people aren't there with you. So I finally got to a place where I didn't feel like I had to, come on, come with me. I don't want to be here by myself. Um, and so it wasn't as critical that you were there with me. Whereas before I'm like, come on, you got to come with me. This is amazing. I wanted to share it and I still want to share it. But I just came to the realization that not everybody is going to embrace it like I do. And it's not for everybody. But also, of course, certainly not everybody can, um, what's the word, process it as fast as me. So I finally got to a point where I was okay with you being there and me being here, and I didn't have to share every part of it with you. It was sort of like okay, I'm here and I'm good being here, and you're there and I'm okay with you being there. And so that's really hard for some people. It's a hard place for some people to get, I think. It took me a while to get there as fast as I was moving, but I think if you're able to do that and to objectively see that your own path is your own and you may walk it alone at a certain point until other people catch up or you find new people on your path, you have to be willing to walk that path alone. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as I've known you, I know there's things that you struggled with. And as an engineer, I've always wanted to be the fixer and to be the person who could fix you and never knew how to. And, in reality, it probably wasn't my role in life to do that for you. You had to find it on your own. And it's, you know, I mean, I wish I could have been the person that fixed you, that saw it, made you feel better on some of these things you've challenged with over the years. But I have to take great joy in that you found it and that the transformation that you've had and the healing that you've had. I see that, and I have to just, not be jealous that I wasn't the one that was able to help you, but just share that joy of the tremendous life change that you've had and the positive impact it's had on you.
So, what things do you think you could suggest to other people that are struggling at this point in their relationship, even with their significant others or their friends or the family? From your perspective, what advice could you give them in their ability to deal with these huge changes that their
Mhm.
loved ones are going through?
Yeah, I think just listening and being open. You can listen and um, be accepting of the message that's coming, even and still be honest that, hey, this doesn't resonate with me, or it challenges some of my beliefs, and maybe over time those things will change. But we can still have that discussion. You can still listen and be there for each other, even if maybe some of these things don't align with you, and just be honest with you know obviously, if you want that to be honest to them, then you need to also then be okay to take their honest feedback, and obviously work to help each other. And the important thing is the outcome. And we're the I see the positive things that are happening, and I'm excited about it. And you just appreciate those things, and be thankful for the outcome of what's going on.
That's very well said. My question is, how does someone get to that place? Because that sounds like a very mature place. And I know that not everybody is able to do that, right? Like, how did you find your way there?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. Let me think about that.
Yeah, because I mean, that sounds like a great end product. But the questions I can hear people asking is, well, how do you do that? Like, I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is that you have to be willing to let go of your own ego and realize that what's going on with the other person has nothing to do with you, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the goal is to, the outcome of what you're trying to do, not, and not get hung up on who gets credit for what. And, I think about my role as an engineer. Um, you know, it's about reaching out to your coworkers and trying to get their ideas and inputs. And it's okay if my idea isn't the one that saves the day. But I talked to someone else and they had the solution that was the right solution. And being willing to share that experience with them and the credit. It's not about I have to be the one to solve it. It's I have to be the one that finds the people who can solve it. Um, and so just let go of your personal pride that you have to be the one that's leading the way, or it has to be your vision that's that plays out.
So what if, I went through all this and yet you had nothing to do with all these big changes, and these big changes had to do with things that you didn't believe in. So let's talk about that. Like, there's a big cavern between us as far as that goes. And so that might be what other people are dealing with as well. We're on two sides of the fence as far as what we believe in. How do you deal with that? How do you find that that's okay and not threatening, and yet still hold your own ground with that?
Well, again, I mean, there's what you believe in, and there's nothing wrong. It's good stuff, and it has a good message. If you don't, I mean, if you don't really maybe believe in the foundation of some of the stuff, then you look at what the message is, and the message is good and positive and constructive, and so you can embrace the message and find that common ground that we, and maybe, I mean, it just takes time, right? These are, just be open-minded, because I mean, there's many things I've changed my view on over it throughout my life, and I want to leave the door open because I may change my beliefs and come around on this. So, don't necessarily, again, don't be quick to judge, be open, and give things time, and share those experiences.
And how did you ever feel threatened by, number one, the things I was going through, or the revelations I was having, or the directions I was moving in, or the amount of growth that I was showing? Did any of that feel threatening to you?
I don't know if it's threatening. Is just more like, not knowing, I guess, just being a little bit scared of where this was going to take you, and would we still, like, as this all, would we come back together, and just concerned about how we would, integrate this into our lives together.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. I mean, and for me, it was like a free fall. Like, I didn't know where I was landing. I didn't know where I was going. And now I move differently than I ever did before. I make decisions differently. I move more freely. So I'm not as structured as I was. But I'm not a space cadet. I have to point out, you got lucky there, because a lot of spiritual people that I know are real spacey and out there and not very connected with time and place. So I maintain those characteristics of myself. Thank you. um, but I still am able to move in constant flow and just ride the wave. And so I'm understanding that, okay, things are changing. Now they're changing again. And I never really know precisely exactly where it's going and when it's going. I just know it's going. So I trust it, but it's really hard for someone like you that's looking from the outside to understand the process that's going on for me, right? I mean, do you want to talk about that? Have you ever questioned or wondered about that?
Yeah, I mean, again, being an engineer, I'm like, you make a plan, and then you start following the plan, and like, there's not, yeah, I think what you're experiencing isn't something where there's a plan laid out and steps to follow. It goes where it goes, right? And that's something that's hard for me to wrap my head around. And I think I've just kind of learned to roll with the punches, and we'll just let things play out the way they're going to play out, and we'll things will work out, and not get too. I mean, this, I don't know. Don't, like, let things play out and try to give you your space, and just have the confidence that we'll come back together.
Well, do you still feel like you get what you need out of the relationship? Because it sounds like everything you're saying is you're holding, you're stepping back, you're holding space, and you're allowing all of this room for anything that needs to happen. But how does that work for you? How does that give you what you need out of the arrangement?
Oh, I mean, but again, I give you your space, but I feel like we come back together, and we share our common experiences and our passions that align, And so you figure out how to focus on those things that we share and that we're passionate in together, and that it really embrace that part of our lives together, and still give each other room to do our own thing. And I think we've kind of always done that. There was times where I was off doing trail building and you were off riding, doing your horse training or dog training. We've always kind of had that where we give each other the room to do our things, but then come back together and have that common core.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that might be a good piece of advice for those who are going through this. One thing that I've noticed is when I first started this process, there was a big push from me for Paul to come along. There was a a lot of pressure from me to come on. I want you to catch up. And once I sort of sat back from that and I decided it didn't matter, that you had your own path and you might join me and you might not. Once I realized I was okay either way and that all was good, then I was okay just taking a break from it. So I think what I've noticed recently is that sometimes we come together and we talk about what I'm doing with my work, with my spirituality, with my growth, with my discoveries. And then other times we're just husband and wife doing the things we've always loved to do together. So we tend to kind of take breaks, and it's kind of like a hilly route. Like we'll ascend to a certain part and talk about this, that, and the other. And then we kind of relax and we go back into what's comfortable and what's routine for us, which might be mountain biking, might be camping, might be traveling, might be spending time apart, however we want to do it at that moment. And then we come back briefly for a little short discussion about what I'm doing, what's going on, what's new, what level am I at now? But it's very brief, and I don't need as much from it as I used to. So it's just a discussion, just to kind of check in and say, this is where I'm at. And then we go back to being husband and wife and what we've always done. So now we've kind of found our flow with it. And that flow may change because we're always in flow. I am. But I've kind of learned how to ride the wave. So it's important, I think, for those of us who are doing the changing. It's really chaotic for us because we're going through so much at that point in our lives. But it's also important for us to just relax and do what we've always done for a moment and remember who we were, and honor the people we are sharing our space with by just spending time with them wherever they're at. And then we can go back to doing what we normally do. But I think that's really helped when we started doing that, when I started doing that, because it took a lot of pressure off of you, for sure. I know. Yeah. Would you agree?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And, it's like anything balanced. Like I know you want to just get in, dive into it and totally immerse, but still doing some of those things that maybe aren't like the spiritual path, that, going for a mountain bike ride with me, that's important. And maybe sometimes you didn't want to do that, but I know you still did. And, it's good for you to, balance things a little bit and for us to spend time together. And I think those things helped. Yeah.
So finding that balance and still maintaining the relationship, even though you feel like you're taken off to another level. I think it's important to, in the beginning, especially, to do both, to kind of have a foot in each realm. It's helping me right now. So the next thing I want to talk about is how to stay true to yourself without feeling pressured. And we kind of touched that a little bit. How have you found to be true to yourself, your own core values, your own belief system, without allowing me to make you feel pressured based on my experience and what I have achieved? Because surely that's pressure. Just seeing what I'm able to do, and you've already mentioned it with the meditation, and feeling like you're not able to be there with me, that's going to create some sort of pressure. So how have you been able to deflect that pressure and to stay true to yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I just felt like I mean, it would have been easy at times to say, "Oh yeah, I'm on the path," or come out of a meditation, be like, "Oh, I had this great experience," and and kind of fake it, right? And and that, I think I mean, that eventually backfires. So just be honest, and um, I know that it sucks when I saw that you were disappointed that I wasn't as, didn't get as much out of a meditation as you, or not as quick on your path. But I think it would have. I don't think it was the right thing to do, to pretend to see what you're seeing and experience that. So, just be honest, and then on both sides, just be honest, and then make sure you're open to the honesty from your partner.
Yeah. Was there anything you had to do behind the scenes, like a pep talk to yourself, or check in with yourself and say, no, I'm doing the right thing? I mean, was there anything that you had to do that I didn't know about that
Oh,
you
I
want to share?
don't. I don't know. I mean, I just, it's just like life. I mean, sometimes things seem really dark, and then the next day the sun comes out. And so don't make harsh reactions when, it seems like the chips are down, like it, like give things time. Um, I mean, even outside of this, I mean, any relationship, right? You have moments where like, you're like, holy cow, like this is hard. And the next day it all seems to be better. And, we all have bad days and good days and stressful days. And, sometimes the timing of those things doesn't align. So, it's really just normal life of weather the storm and then come back stronger.
That's good. Yeah. Um, so I think it's important to my final point is being able to find a sacred place just for you within the relationship. So I obviously have my own sacred place because I go there frequently. How were you able to find your own sacred place? And by that, I mean the space where it's okay to just be you and not be affected by anything that's happening with me. How were you able to find that space so that you didn't succumb to self-doubt or that self-talk that might have told you that you weren't good enough because you weren't undertaking the experience that I was?
I mean, I think like I mean, for me, I mean, I'm fairly passionate about mountain biking, and this year was planning to do some racing. And so that was a big focus of mine. And that's kind of my time, is when I go out. I do a lot of rides that are just by myself, and it just gives you time to be alone with yourself and your own thoughts. And, some of those are boring rides on the road, but others are fun rides on mountain bike trails out in the woods. And just using that, staying focused on that kind of structure, and making sure I get that time for myself. Having that something that you're passionate about, and it's not selfish for you to continue to focus on something you're passionate about and have in your space.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those of us who meditate, it's easier for us to find that space that I'm talking about where we can connect with our higher selves, and it's a very protected space. And but I think the ones that are standing by watching this may not have those skills, or that ability or that opportunity to find that so quickly. But I think it's important that it be considered and used as a tool. So, like Paul mentioned, time by himself and time outside in nature is huge, to be able to just connect with yourself, doing what you're passionate about doing, whether it involves your significant other or not, and just being true to you can help throughout this process without losing faith, without having, projecting doubt into the relationship or the circumstance. Just letting some of that pressure and the steam and the doubt, letting that just evaporate off of you when you're out in nature. That's a good way to do it. But I think it's very important to mention that finding that sacred place just to be yourself and unwind is helpful. And that's how we've always done it. I mean, being athletic, it's really easy. You can just pound one out on the bicycle and you're back to your core being no matter what anybody said to you, right? I mean, that's always been something we've been able to deflect to because we're athletes. But not everybody can do that. So I guess if you can find a way, and meditation, of course, is an easy way to do that, but not everybody likes to meditate. You can just go for a walk or find a hobby that you can do by yourself without your spouse, where you can develop relationships with other people and, find your own rhythm and your own way through this change. And then come back together, and share space together and enjoy each other. But I think it's a really difficult place to be. I mean, this was the biggest curveball we've seen throughout our whole marriage. And it's challenging. It's very challenging. Right now, we're in a good place. So it's a good time to talk about it. I wonder how this conversation would go if we were in the midst of a very low place. We might have to try that talk sometime if we get brave. But I just wanted to offer this little bit of insight to those couples who are going through this, whether it's with a significant other or a partner or your family members. It is possible. But it's important to know that everyone's on their own path and not everybody will be able to have the maturity to allow you to do what you need to do. I'm fortunate because Paul has allowed me to go through this process. Some families and significant others aren't allowing that kind of space. It's very threatening. It's frightening to see some of the things that's happening, to see some of the growth, because it can be very, very sudden. So I'm fortunate that Paul allows me to explore myself and do what I need to do. And he doesn't place any limitations on me or any expectations. So we are fortunate in that, and it has helped. So for those of you out there that are struggling, my thoughts are with you. Paul and I sort of know what you're going through. Certainly, I would imagine this whole problem could be compounded by having children, which we don't have. So we don't have anyone else to consider but ourselves as far as the decisions that we make or the disagreements we have with each other. They don't affect anybody but ourselves. So it does make it a little bit more complicated when children are involved. But thank you for joining us tonight. I hope that we were able to shed some light on this very needed and delicate subject tonight of why. What was it? The topic? Oh, what about me? Because I'm having all the fun over here. It's a big party for me, but Paul's sitting over there by himself and not able to join the party. So what about me? So it's a very important topic to have. And I think the biggest takeaway is to be able to talk about it and discuss it and be honest about your feelings with your other person. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and just, celebrate your partner's successes in life. And, I'm very proud of the progress you've made, the effect it's had on your life, and the effect you're having on other people's lives, the ability for you to help others. And I see that talent that you have to help other people. And I'm very proud of you and what you've gone through and what you're doing.
Thank you, honey. All right. For more information about meditating, you can check out my webpage, heatherleestrom.com. I do have a meditation series on my webpage right now. And there's also a free meditation from one of the canine guides on my page. So check that out. And also, I'm going to be doing a live tomorrow with Andy Hale from the UK about the deep healing potential of our dogs at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So join me for that. If you're interested in signing up for a consult for your own healing session with the canine guides, you can do that also on my webpage. heatherleestrom.com. All right, that is all for now. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Paul, for sharing your deepest, darkest secrets. I hope we were able to help somebody out there that needed to hear it. All right, see you next time. Love you.